Welcome back. Welcome. I'm Mr. Bitcoin Maxi, and we are all Bitcoin Maxis. So today, just got out of the gym. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day here in the Bay Area. Not too hot. It's been kind of hot lately. But let's get into today's video. I have some notes. I'll know I love doing my research. I love doing my walks. If you want to join me for today's note session that I took on why Bitcoin will hit 1 million. Now, this is the strongest case. These are the strongest cases on why Bitcoin will hit 1 million, which is currently trending right now on searches. So let's answer the public and possibly answer your questions. So first, we have institutional floodgates, okay? So BlackRock, Fidelity, and global asset managers are piling in. Bitcoin ETFs make it possible for trillions in retirement funds and pensions to buy Bitcoin with a click. So that's important to recognize, okay? Now we have corporate and retirement adoption. Now from MicroStrategy to 401k plans, Bitcoin is moving into balance sheets and retirement accounts. Once mainstream portfolios hold even 1 to 2%, the price explodes. So once people start accumulating Bitcoin, this is when we will see the price explode, because the average investor, the average middle class, and the average everyday person wants to purchase Bitcoin. So let's get into the next one, nation state reserves. So El Salvador was the first domino. Okay, so imagine when larger economies start competing to stack Bitcoin as a hedge against dollar dominance, which we know El Salvador is really big on Bitcoin, really big on Bitcoin. And I think what's going to start happening is other countries are going to start adopting it as well, just like El Salvador, which we've already been seeing. However, that's just an example, okay? Then we have scarcity and halving supply shock. Now, only 21 million coins will ever exist. Each halving cuts new supply in half while demand keeps rising, which is a recipe for a parabolic run. So the next one we have is dollar weakness, which is big this week in the headlines, if you've all seen. Wherever you are in the world, wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's Canada, UK, Australia, all my Aussies out there, shout out to all my Aussies, shout out to all my UK and Canada folks, everybody around the world who's tuning in. Now, as the dollar weakens in the US and inflation eats cash, Bitcoin stands out as a neutral, borderless, hard asset. So it's important to recognize that, okay? So especially here in the United States, the Fed is about to cut rates. And when they do, inflation's going to get worse. And then, with the dollar currently already weakened from all the money printing that they're currently doing, now with the Fed rate cuts, it's going to get even worse. So, see that? The wind is really trying to get me today. All right, so network snowball effect. Now, every new holder makes the network more valuable now. Now, adoption is compounding like the early internet days, which, in my opinion, Bitcoin is still early, like the internet was still early. Now, we have generational wealth transfer. So 68 trillion is being passed to millennials and Gen Z, the most pro-Bitcoin generations who don't trust, banks. And the banks are starting to recognize that now. That's why some of the banks are scared. Some of the banks are genuinely scared, as some of you all might have seen on the headlines. Now, another one is psychological price anchors. Now, once Bitcoin passes 250K, right, the 1 million per coin narrative goes mainstream. This will trigger global FOMO. Now, this will trigger global FOMO into the everyday average middle class. And everybody will start seeing it as, I missed the boat at 114 to, okay, maybe this is really going higher and going to continuously go higher, possibly forever, just like those normal people have heard. So it's important to recognize that. So we have energy and innovation. Innovation mining is another one. So Bitcoin mining stabilizes power grids, monetizes stranded energy, and accelerates renewable adoption, which is important to recognize because as AI takes over, AI needs a lot of power, okay? AI needs a lot of power. And from the research that I found, Bitcoin mining stabilizes power grids. So that might actually be a really big benefit for energy and innovation for mining, right? So global remittances and emerging markets. Now, remittances is basically money being sent from one country to another. So for example, like immigrants to, family members, like immigrant workers. That's an example, okay? So 800 billion in yearly remittances could shift to Bitcoin, with billions in developing nations leapfrogging weak banking systems. So we know that there's countries out there that have weak banking systems. So a big factor why Bitcoin will hit 1 million is because the people that don't have bank accounts or are bankless, as they say, will start adopting Bitcoin. Okay, so the last one I have here is Bitcoin as collateral and digital property rights. So in the world of debt, okay, surveillance and CBDCs. So for example, with China, the EU, India, and other countries are piloting Bitcoin to become pristine collateral in the form of money you can truly own. Honestly, I don't know what I put here, but what I meant to, I believe, put here is that CBDCs, they're basically being looked at negatively from a viewpoint because people don't want to be controlled by CBDCs. So in my notes, when I was doing my research, I believe, what I meant to put was it's basically being tested in those countries and piloted. Now, I believe China has the yuan. But other than that, I would be lying to you all if I knew about that. I really don't. However, that is one factor that I found is Bitcoin as collateral and digital property rights, because people do not want to be controlled by CBDCs and they want to get away from that. And Bitcoin is a big factor in that. Now, as we go digital and things are becoming more digital, so for example, you're going to buy something, you notice how you use your debit card, okay? You purchase everything a lot in your debit card. Now, for people like me, there is people like me out there in the world, and I'm sure maybe you might be one of them watching, that use cash, which I do as well. However, you still have to use a card and take your cash out of the ATM, right? So it's basically digital. Your transactions that you do, they're digital. So people are tired of the banking systems. People are tired of just the limits with the banks, where deposits take a couple days. So that's a big factor. Once people start seeing how quick Bitcoin is and how fast you can send it, it's a big factor. So I want to come on and make this video and answer the public because, like I said, I seen that it was in high demand. And so got up this morning. You all know I like to do research and write it down and share it with you all. And I appreciate you all for the love and the support on this channel. And we are all Bitcoin Maxis, and I'm Mr. Bitcoin Maxi. Again, thank you all for tuning in. If you made this far, I appreciate you. And I will see you all in tonight's video that I will be dropping. I'll see you then.